Salsa y Soul. And
Yes.
we want to just recognize Jessica Toro for the wonderful mugs, my beautiful Christmas gift from Reverend Nilsa. Love, love, love. Look at that.
Yes. So if you need anything personalized, let us know. We'll get you in contact with Jessica. And I'm in my balcony. So if you hear any music, just bounce to it. And we will connect you with her. But thank you, Jessica.
Thank you, Jessica. Well,
And my friends, forgive us for any noise, but I'm in my balcony, and this is Zoom Lives. You can't tune off the noise. But
that's right.
listen, we are wearing bright red or in the scheme of red tones because February is American Heart Month, and it is the perfect time for you to learn about your risks for heart disease and the step you need to take, now to help your heart. And it is also Black History Month, right, my sister?
Yes, my sister. And in honor of Black History Month, we want to recognize Mary McLeod Bethune. She was an educator and a civil rights advocate, and she believed that the teaching of Jesus was all encompassed love thy neighbor. She said, if we did that, we could transform the world. And I believe that soul and salsa, that is what we are doing. And I'm so glad to share this platform with you today. So,
Amen. Amen. Likewise.
amen.
Likewise.
Amen. So, what are we talking about today?
Talking well, listen, actually, not too long ago, we were having sort of a little debate right there. We have a little supermarket around the corner, and people were just talking about the vaccine, whether or not, they should take it. And it was an interesting conversation and debate, especially because when it comes about culture, especially among Hispanics here where I live, which predominantly, Miami, it is, a high percentage, about 69 or so, at least in the area that I
Hmm.
live, are Hispanics. So, people were some were feeling hesitant, some were saying, okay, we have to do this. I don't know. I don't know what had been your experience.
Well, I think you're right that culture has so much to do with how particularly Blacks and Latinos feel about taking this vaccine. I mean, historically, for Black people, even starting with the Tuskegee Airmen and the trial that they went through, the test and the racism of it all really has Black folk like, no, I don't want to do it. But what's so interesting is that the churches are encouraging Black and Latinos to go and take it. And we know, many churches where they are taking it. But in the past with racist and even dangerous health policies, we know that from socioeconomics, Blacks and Latinos who live in poor neighborhoods never get good health care and are always left out of the solution. So I mean, I have I struggle with it because at the same time, um the Tuskegee experiment was designed and it was racist toward Black people, but this is not. This is for everyone. All of us were affected. So I know, just full transparency, my mom got the vaccine, and I know that I will probably have to get it, going back to work and working at teaching at the city university. So I don't know. I mean, we do have some guests coming on. We can talk about that, but you know, personally, I struggle with it. But I know that it's something that I will have to do. What do you think, sis?
Well, I could relate to both sides, and as a Latino myself, and have gone through, some ups and downs. And even when it comes to having access to health insurance, I
Mm,
remember the first time that I was diagnosed with having cervical cancer cells back when I was in my 20s. And I'm dating myself. I didn't have that access. I didn't even know. I wasn't informed. Nobody like really, I lived in the Bronx and Jackson projects,
mm,
and one of the probably worst projects in the area. We didn't have, that type of education, and
yeah,
I think that in some ways, people may be hesitant because they don't have enough information. They haven't been perhaps educated, and also because of the experience they had in the past. Like you mentioned, it takes, you got to build trust
yes,
within your communities, right? And if we are always have been in the margins, then when you come, hey, I got this and I'm going to try it on you, then it
yes.
creates that doubt and that hesitation, even if it is a great thing.
Mm,
So and I think also you have to acknowledge, you can't just say, what you're saying is not valid, your feelings don't count,
yes,
just take my word for it. No, you have to validate those feelings because it comes from generation, generation to generation. I
mhm,
remember my grandparents would never go, and my great grandparents to the doctor because they
doctor.
didn't.
Yeah, that's right.
They use homeopathic medicine, they use the herbs, they use those teas. They had so many remedies. I remember if you felt and had a bump in your head, they come with a plaster of
That's
butter
right.
and a potato for, so you wouldn't have the scarf. I mean, all these things. And the bottom line is that it did work, right?
Yes,
Whether
absolutely.
it actually work or maybe in our head, we believe that it worked, but they never went to the doctor. And I'm not saying you cannot, I do believe that we have to listen to science, that we have to listen to what the medical field is doing. They have been there,
Mhm.
they have been put there by God, right? We all have doctors, you should go to the doctor. So I'm not saying that, but what I'm saying is that you do have to deep a little deeper where those feelings are coming from and acknowledge those and
Yes,
start from there,
yes.
rather than just prescribe something and say this is the solution.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And I can attest to that with my family. Our go-to Bible for health was Back to Eden. My grandmother was a nurse, but she was more homeopathic. So from golden seal to zinc, to just peeling off the aloe. Oh, I got a cut. Oh, I'm sick. Whatever. It was all homeopathic. And I have to say that I was never sick. And the only time I went to the doctor was for my carpal tunnel. And when I was going to get the surgery, the family was like, no, don't do it. We don't believe in medicine, but yet God gave medicine. But this study from Healthline said that there were only 28% of Blacks that trusted in testing and safety. And the number of Latinos was at 47%. So people are very hesitant about it. And the reality is that Black and Brown people have always been treated by the US medical establishment, as being less than. It's always been bleak for us. But at the same time, we're growing. You have more Black and Brown doctors. Next week, God willing, we'll have Dr. Marlene Taylor. She's our family physician, and she's traveled all over the world. She actually called us to let us know that the vaccine was available. So I don't, but at the same time, I'm still nervous. And I think that we have a right to be.
Absolutely. And I think, uh, we uh, we just have to perhaps educate ourselves, right? And even for us brown and the brown and black community to bring people, folks that look like us, right? Because that's important, right?
That's right.
Trusting somebody else could come and not look like me, may not come from the same background, may not know how I feel, and just by that, we might be a little bit standoffish,
Mhm.
right? Because we just need to trust them, and our culture is that way, right? We trusted what the neighbor said, and the neighbor, we didn't go to the expert. We always were like, mira qué fue lo que dijo fulano, pregúntale a fulanito, go to the corner, go to the neighbor. And
Yeah,
then I will always argue with my mother, but why are you asking the neighbor? He's not the doctor, or he's not the expert, he's not the lawyer. Go to the expert. And she
yes,
was like, no, 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 porque ellos saben, y ella sabe, y él sabe, so it is part of our
that's
culture.
right.
So if we can, sort of educate people, and then at the end of the day, I don't think it's about do this or do that.
Right.
I personally cannot tell you what to do. But what perhaps we can do is give out information, let people make informed decisions,
That's right.
not be forced into things, but be informed. And then from there, right, if you are a person of faith, then pray about it, right? Look guidance and direction. But even if you're not a person of faith, just I think in anything that you do, you should be informed. You should seek to understand,
Yeah, absolutely.
then make a decision.
Absolutely. While you were saying what your family does, I was thinking about my family. It's like, listen, call your aunt from down south, call your cousin in Chicago and her cousin and her sister, because they know the remedy. And then you're on the phone and you're like, so where should I put the medicine? On the top of my head, on the bottom of my chin, like what to do? But now, we have people who look like us who are in the medical profession. So Dr. Marlene Taylor, who looks like me, who is in that profession. So not only does she look like me, but I can trust her because she's my neighbor. So, God is moving in a way where you see more people of color who are in the profession to give us the information. And you're right. You take the information and you do what you will. I am very cognizant of essential workers who don't have a choice, even if they don't want to, no matter how much they've read. A lot of this depends on people's economics. So I think, as women of faith, as women of color, that we have to continue to pray, Lord, guide us, because here we are on this platform and we're sharing, and people are listening and hearing us. And we want to make sure that we're just dispensing the right information. And all we can say is, listen, read the studies, read the work, and make an informed decision. So I'm excited for next week when we have Dr. Marlene on, and we're just gonna we got to go with the flow with this, baby, because this ain't where's your mask, we are still in the throes of this thing. And I don't know, Rev,
And
I don't.
just last week, I was collaborating here in Miami with a group of churches and communities, um, and with the city church. Thank you, Generation Mark. So, and the need is great, even through this pandemic. I mean, we gave out, and I guess it was less than 2 hours or so, like close to 500 boxes, right, of food. And I even brought 2, 3 boxes here to give out in here to in the complex, the security. Sometimes people that, people get overlooked, right?
Yes, yes,
And I just
yes,
said, listen, would you like this box? And I know the person was a little bit hesitant, but then she said yes. And I said, you know what? Let me give you two, so
yes.
you can bless somebody else. And then we went to the people that work in the little supermarket, and in some ways it opened my heart to see sometimes things that we take for granted, because he was one box, and in one box they were, let me give you this, you take that one, and they divided it into 3 people. So
Yes, yes.
it just show that there's still that there's a need,
And
that.
just talking about the need, just on a basic level, I'm just thinking about the People's Church, Hey People's Church, and how we are adopting neighbors, because sometimes your neighbors can have all of the resources, but they don't have anyone to just knock on their door to say, how are you doing? Are you feeling okay? So this whole act of helping and resources, sometimes resources is just your presence. And I'm grateful that um even in our kinds of communities, that's something that we're used to. You knock on the neighbor's door, you okay, you need anything? From the Tuskegee experiments, which was one of the most disturbing parts of American medical history, to the economic and culture inequalities of the US healthcare system that has disproportionately harmed Black and Latino communities. There are very real reasons, Rev, why some people might look with a side eye and some skepticism and fear at these new vaccines.
Reb, you are so right. And these are the experiences that sometimes causes hesitation. Because I know, especially for Puerto Ricans, and Puerto Rican women, the era between the 1930s, and I want to just look at my notes because I want to say the history right. But between the 1930s and the 1970s, approximately 1/3 of the female population of Puerto Rico was sterile. And despite this high rate of sterilization, the dark history of these operations remains still under study and hidden in the shadows of history. And some argue that the pressure to increase sterilization procedures was a targeted practice to decrease the high level of poverty and unemployment.
Ooh, wow.
So, and it's, these are things that can create,
Yes,
again,
yes,
can create
yes.
hesitation and doubt.
Yeah. And I'm going back to the Tuskegee experiment, where it involved 600 Black men, 399 according to the data with syphilis, and 201 did not have the disease. And the study was conducted without any of the patients' informed consent. And then the researchers told the men they were being treated for bad blood. And so, when you think about this, so in exchange for them taking part in the study, the men received free medical exams, free meals, and burial insurance. Although originally it was projected to last 6 months, the study went on for 40 years. So when you talk about being misinformed by people in the medical profession, of course you're going to look with a side eye. And I think it's important. I love that we are both bringing up the history of our people.
And if you look at, even at that time, you're talking about the 1930s,
Yes.
the first plan, right? Puerto Rico, it was at that time of it populated. So here is sometimes, the systems, right? The
Yes.
fallen systems that are trying to perhaps in the mind do a good thing, but in reality is not. And they started introducing, right, what they thought was a plan to decrease the population. And the second aspect of this plan, that it was about in the 1940s, entailed the promotion of sterilization as the best form of birth control
Look at that.
for the majority of women, and imposed a limit of children per family. So, and at the same time, the women were encouraged. They were being encouraged to join the workforce primarily in the needlework and textile industries at the time. So here it is at that time,
Yes.
the 1930s, the 40s, and the 60s.
Yes.
This was going on. And by the time they woke up and realized what was happening, women not able to bear children.
Yeah. And it is important that we talk about this. And we could go on and on. I was going to say in 1926 how health was seen as an inhibiting development for people of color, because we just didn't trust the system. And you know, in a lot of ways we still don't trust the system, you know, and we're growing in that. And that's why I think having Dr. Marlene and Nurse Drew to look at both sides is very important. So sis, I think we laid down the foundation, and we now we're gonna let the experts really talk about. We just reading the data, but we not. Listen, if you have any questions about our topic, especially you know, when Dr. Marlene comes on, type them in the YouTube channel chat so we can answer those questions for you.
Sí, eso si tiene alguna pregunta, especialmente de este tópico, de, ¿verdad? De los con y los pro para la vacuna del COVID-19, vamos a tener a la doctora Marlene la próxima sección. So pongan sus preguntas en el chat bar del YouTube channel o las mandan a nosotros, aquellos que tengan nuestro conexión de teléfono, you can text, right? Hasta también a nosotros para que nos den esas preguntas y así nosotros podamos exponer esas preguntas a la doctora Mar. Ahora sí nos vamos.
Salsa and soul. See you later.